Hello and welcome to Champagne Circus, business with a female twist. My name is Yvonne, I'm your host, and I'm also founder of Female Business Scaling. Today is going to be a very exciting episode. We are talking about business and the woo-woo side of business for seven-figure owners, and I'm super happy and proud to have Roswitha Herrman with me. And it's so fun because when we were talking about her name, we were identifying that she's half German as well. She has ancestors over there. So for me, that's very easy saying, welcome, Frau Herrmann, to this podcast. I'm super glad to have you here and unpack a little bit the secrets of the seven-figure business owners.
Thank you so much. Dankeschön for having me here. I speak a little bit German. I understand German, but I haven't spoken it in many, many years now. I'm very honored to be here and to talk about how do we get to six figures? How do we go past six figures? And how I see it, how I approach it, my experience. I've been a coach for 9 years now. This month in March, at the end of March, I'm actually going to celebrate 9 years of being a certified coach. That's when I got my diploma to be certified in coaching. And I've been an online business owner for 14 years. I've had multiple online businesses before I became a coach. So I've been on this block a few times.
and not only that, you're also a podcast host and you're a best-selling author with your book, Young, Creative and Overwhelmed, which is incredible where you're coming from. You're so dedicated and creative since very early ages. So it's going to be such a fun story.
Oh yeah, we can totally unpack my need for overachiever and where that comes from, because that also has a trauma behind it, as we all know, because all overachievers kind of need to compensate for something. And I've achieved lots of things in my life at a very young age because I was always compensating for something. And yeah, we can unpack that too. And I work with women. So my target market is women who are in business online. So doesn't matter what you sell, as long as you have an online business and your goal is to reach six figure as your first big milestone. And then once you're there, we work on how can we make it even more easier. And as you said, delegate certain things, how we can feel safe to delegate, how we can feel safe to work a little and maximize our profits to scale even more.
Yeah, I'm excited to really dive into that. And when I met you online and really getting to know you from your online presence, it was just so warm and lighthearted. When we catched up in the room before, it was like, oh my God, we are sisters already. We know each other for such a long time already. It's also because you're building such a presence online, which is so personal. You share really yourself. Just being very open and honest, studying something very logical, I would say, and then going into the manifesting world, sharing about you that your love language number one is giving and receiving gifts. And then you shared your beautiful water bottle, which is for your VIP clients, which is underlining that. So it's just everything which came across to me is just authentic. How do you do that?
Thank you. So as you said, my background is in engineering. So I graduated as an engineer, electrical engineering, actually. First in my class, I had a straight A scholarship. I didn't have money to sustain myself to college. So that was kind of needed. I needed the money. I needed the scholarship. And because I knew my life is more than just being an engineer, engineering was like a backup plan, having a degree and then figuring out what I want to do in life. So as I was getting my degree with my boyfriend back then, husband now, we started playing with online business. I always loved fashion. Fashion was always something that I was obsessed with. I didn't have money as I was growing up to buy clothes. So that was a very big frustration, not having the financial means to wear the things that I wanted. I had to always go to secondhand shop. And I still shop secondhand. Don't get me wrong. That's for a different reason now. Back then I didn't have the money. Now I just, I don't want to throw money, on all this consumerism. But back then it was I had to. And I always felt ashamed. And I always wanted to be, I was watching Sex and the City and I imagined myself being Carrie Bradshaw and walking into New York and, all those things. So I started my fashion blog with my boyfriend in 2010. And 4 years later, I accomplished my biggest dream. So actually, I knew how to manifest before I knew how to manifest. So 6 months, not six, 8 months after starting my fashion blog, I went to New York for the first time. And again, I was born and raised in Romania, which back then was a third world country. Like people don't just go to New York. Like you had to be extremely wealthy to afford a trip to New York. And from some unexplained situation, I manifested that. And that was my first time going to the United States. Then 4 years later, I accomplished my biggest dream ever, which was to be invited to New York Fashion Week as a fashion blogger and have front row seat. So for me, that was the epitome of my fashion career. And I had many contracts and I had a very beautiful fashion business. I taught how to get dressed. I was really good at SEO. I had a big team. I had like 20 writers on my team. Like we were one of the biggest fashion magazines at that time. But that was still not like once I got to New York and I experienced my biggest dream and I was like 23, 22, 23, I was like, what's next for me? Because there's nothing bigger than this. I don't want to be a designer. I don't want to be a fashion designer. I mean, I love fashion, but that's not necessarily my biggest skill. Like that's just something like a hobby. I just going every year to New York Fashion Week and all the other fashion weeks. Because we went to PD Woman, we went to Milan Fashion Week, like London Fashion, all these, we went everywhere. But it's like to do it every year, it's boring for me. Like I like to, conquer Everest once, but I won't do it every year because like, what's the point? Like for me, it's no longer exciting. So while I was building this fashion brand, while I was going to school, while I was doing volunteering, because I also love to travel and I didn't have money to travel. So I was doing volunteering work around Europe and that got me to travel for free. So almost for free. It was like 50%. I had to pay it by myself, but I got to travel. I got to lead. I learned leadership because I was a big coordinator of hundreds of students. I spoke in front of thousands of universities. So I had built all these skills as I was still studying, as I was in school. And I was going to therapy at the same time and doing a lot of self-development work to figure out, I know so much. I could do so many things. What is my thing? Like, what is my thing? So it took me many years to realize that coaching would be my thing. And coaching back then did not exist. Like in 2014, when I realized I want to be a coach, there were like 3 coaching schools in the whole world that would license you to be a coach. Now you don't need to, but back then you couldn't just be a coach. Like I'm just gonna wake up one day and I'm a coach. Like that wasn't possible back then. So there were only 3 schools. One of them was in New York, one of the schools that I chose in the end. So I was like, that's what I want. I don't want to go to school like another university to become a psychologist. I was like, I'm not going to destroy 3 years of my life to become a psychologist. I know what I want. I want to make money fast and I need to get this thing. I don't want to work with people's trauma, which is so funny now because that's exactly what I do. But I was like, I'm not going to work with people's issues. I just want to get them better, like from, good to best. So I moved to New York to study coaching. That's why I lived in the States a couple of years in total. And that's how my coaching business started. And I wrote the book, which became a bestseller, Young, Crazy, and When Overwhelmed, which is how I figured out what I want to do in life because it took me so long and I had so many opportunities to be so many new things. Like I could have been an engineer. Like a lot of companies wanted to hire me because I was the first in my class. I could have been so many things, fashion designer or work in the fashion industry because I was so good at that and I had so much experience. But that wasn't for me. I knew that. So that's how the book was born. And then with my coaching business, because I was so good at always getting what I wanted, like no matter what it was, what I wanted to travel, I would manifest just like that, money or opportunities or people paying for my travel. Like I have so many stories that you would be amazed, like what I could manifest. And I never knew how I was doing it. I was just doing it. I just like naturally, instinctively. And I'm also a manifester in HD. So for other people, maybe that's why it was so easy for me. Now I know, back then I didn't. And as I was coaching people, I realized that all my clients will always manifest a lot of money, like a lot of money. And I think it took me a couple of years to realize, how am I doing that exactly? Like, is there a step-by-step plan that I could teach others? And in 2019, I tested that plan. I was like, okay, let me study this a little bit more, study a little bit of quantum physics, because being rational, because as an engineer, you have to be rational. You have to have like data. You have to it's not just like woo woo. It's like, I need to have some data. I need to understand. And then I tested on like 20, 30 clients. I was like, I'm just going to do a little bit experiment. I'm not going to tell them because I didn't want to have bias. I was just like, let's try this and see how it works. And it worked. And once I saw that it's working and they didn't even know they were being studied, it's like, I'm just going to test without telling them.
So whoever is listening that too, like from the former client, sorry, it worked.
Well, it worked. Then in 2020, we launched the course, Manifesting Queen, where I teach people exactly how to manifest money. And that course got better because I still sell that thing. It's just that it got better and more precise to a specific target market as I noticed who got the results and who didn't. And, as business owners, we always have to make sure we're choosing the best client for our product because they will get the best results. So for me, I've always seen, the clients who would manifest, because I promised to triple your revenue. So that's the initial promise. And then now we're working toward a 6-figure business. But the initial promise, like for the first 3 months, you're going to triple your revenue. I don't care how much money you make, but you would need to be making at least 22K. Like that would be like the best client for me. That's a client that has some foundational done. And then you will get to 6K monthly in 3 months. No problem. Like I have no doubt about it because I've seen it happening over and over and over again. So I don't even know what was the initial question, but I hope I delivered the answer.
Well, what I got out of that was really like, wow, you're just following your gut instinct and the fun. So what I really, you said like, I'm playing on online business, I'm playing with that. So this fun element comes across in every word you share. And then you're driven also by the need. Like there's also a little bit like, I don't know how you call that, like a, which is giving you a driver. So you get there. The initial question was, and that's again underlining who you are and how you're showing up. You are so authentic. And I like myself, like how much do I show? Like how much do I show up? How much do I share about me? Especially like this inner struggles. And you're so open with that. And that's what comes across in our conversation, on your website, on your social media. How do you do that? How do you overcome those blocks? And I think that's also something which is distinguishing from 2K a month or 100K a month. So what is your secret sauce for that level of authentic way of showing up?
That's a very good question. And the answer is not necessarily pretty. So I had to release a lot of shame and guilt to be able to be comfortable with myself and not be ashamed of anything that I do. Because I was brought up in a world, and again, we go back to cultural. If you're poor and you live in a poor country, you're always going to feel the need to prove something, the need to show people something. And in the online world, we see that with all this fakeness that's online. Like everybody seems to be making millions. Everybody seems to have a perfect life. Everybody is beautiful. Everybody affords all the best clothes, like all these things, which we all know it's not quite true. Like there's a lot of fake things out there, but we need to kind of show. So I was brought up in the same system. I needed to always show that I'm better than I actually am, because if I don't show that I'm better, how can people trust me and buy from me? So that was kind of the thought. And as I was entering this era of like starting with 2020, I started to learn about trauma and and I don't mean like, I know trauma, people get like abused or being harmed in some way. And I don't talk about that trauma. What I'm talking, I was not abused as a child, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm not taking that from people who were actually abused and had very hard, difficult lives. But trauma is also being neglected as a child. Trauma is also not having the money and how it influences you and your decision and your behavior. So that's also trauma. So as I was learning about my need to prove, my need to look better or be better than others, my competitive side, which is a gift and also a curse. Like I was competing with my husband. Like that's not a healthy thing in a relationship, but I didn't know how to turn it off. It wasn't like, oh, I'm competitive just in business, and then with other people, I'm not. No, I was competitive with anybody. Like no matter what, I needed to win at everything. So I kind of noticed certain behaviors that I had. And I was like, okay, where do they come from? And how is this affecting me? And what's the belief behind this need, this behavior? And I noticed that I couldn't be authentic. I couldn't, because there was so much shame, so much guilt that I should be further ahead by now. I should have had this. I should have did this. And I was comparing myself to people from US because, I was competing on the same level with them as my online business. And I always felt short. I was like, why? It's not fair. I'm very smart. I'm very beautiful. I'm very just like, because I always had I had high self-confidence. I didn't have high self-esteem. This is, again, two different things. And I couldn't understand, what do they have that I don't? Like, it's not fair. Why are they making more money than me? And then as I was digging deeper, I noticed, I have lots of money blocks. I have lots of money trauma, and it's not even mine. So I'm carrying it from generations before me. Like, you have to imagine, my grandgrandma couldn't even read or write. And I met her. I lived with her when I was a child. So can you imagine the level of education and money that my just grandgrandma had? Like, it's not like just 2 generations ago, not hundreds of years ago. And you cannot compare a person like me with somebody whose grandgrandma was maybe a millionaire, or they had, I don't know, a business. You cannot compare, because the levels of layers of trauma that I need to sift through are more. And probably that's why I was chosen for this job, because I'm, dealing with myself. I know how to help others to deal with their money issue and money trauma. So by releasing all of this, looking back, is it DNA? Is it from a past life? Is it a vow? Is it a promise? Like, I noticed I even had some promises that I made with myself to never trust anybody, or to never, like, from different past lives. And I was like, of course I cannot delegate things if I cannot trust anybody. And I don't know why I cannot trust anybody, because it comes from somewhere. Or another huge thing that I noticed even like 2 years ago was that I didn't know how to love. So that was like, but I do love people, but I didn't know how to actually love. Like, for me, love meant sacrifice. So there's so many things that we work on. Like, I work with my clients to uncover. We look at what makes us unhappy in our business. What would make us happy? Like, what would be the ideal version of that? And we kind of look to see, okay, what's the middle? Like, where is it coming from? Where is the fear? What's the block? What's the belief? What's the behavior that we can change? And nothing gets changed without our awareness for its blessing. So, for example, one of the methodologies that I use, it's very fast. Like, in 5 minutes, we can release any block you have. But there's a caveat here. I cannot release something if you don't understand its blessing in your life. Everything that we have, every block, every fear, everything has a purpose. So you can say, but I'm afraid of never having enough money for all the things that I want to buy. Okay, well, that fear has a blessing in your life. So the moment you acknowledge it and you do some mindset work, or we do it together, to be like, okay, what's the blessing to having this? How is this protecting me? How is this helping me? How is this making me who I am? Then you can release it. So releasing shame and guilt, that's the first big thing we need to do to become authentic.
It's incredible sharing that, because my observation, talking to people like you, talking to people who are already running a 7 or 8 figure business already, it always feels like, oh my God, we know each other such a long time. We have a good time. It's so esteeming. Like, we care. We really truly connect. We share. It's like coming to a club where you are loved, where you are cared of, and it's super open and honest. So those level of conversation and the depth of conversation is really differently. And I do not feel like the shame and guilt talking about past stuff, talking about even failures. Like in my culture, German culture, half your culture, we are striving for perfect. We are striving for safety. We are striving for 0 errors. So when you do an error, and it could be a bad grade at school, you're a failure. You're bad. So feel ashamed. Go to your room and don't come out because you're punished. It's not the best grade. So I can really relate to that. And it's an energy thing. You can feel it. The way you talk about those situations, I feel already you're like not in love with those situations, but you're in peace with it. And the more you are in peace, the more you are like, you're having this calm charisma somehow. And you're bringing that, and you're like not having all the bullshit radio in your head. You're just in pace. And that's why you can listen differently to people. And that's what I experienced with those, kind of progressed people in their business, because they transfer to their business as well, because they can listen to their team members and so on. So I would love to get a little bit more into that perspective, because you're working with those who are getting to the six figures and beyond. And there you're focusing on money, but in the end, money is just a symptom, right? So what are the differences you recognize in those six-figure business owners and running a six-figure business, if we unpack the structure a little bit, and then the seven-figure, to be dramatic?
Okay. Well, in order to get to six figures, what I noticed to be in my reality with my clients is that first you need to have foundation in business. So that's something that I teach. Like, you need to know the basic business foundation. You need to be consistent with the strategy. You need to have I think consistency, that's the most important part. That's why people don't get to six figures. I think being consistent. And that's a block. Like, that's a huge block that's unpacking a lot of other money blocks. So consistency is like a big umbrella that unpacks a lot of money blocks. So this is why I promise people to triple your current revenue, not get to a specific amount, because energetically, everybody can triple their revenue. Everybody. There's no person out there that cannot. 3 months is like the max amount of time. Usually I see it in about a month and a half. That's the average. But I put it 3 months just to make sure that everybody can reach that. But it's like a month and a half. And usually once we unpack the blocks. So the reason why I can promise 3 months is because I have a certain exercise that I take my clients through to realize what are their blocks for that specific triple. We need to triple that. What are your blocks around here? And I teach them how to release it on a mindset, nervous system level, like trauma and energetic level. That's what we do. Then besides this, which is the most important part, the second part is having a very simple marketing strategy. Most people who are not at six figures complicate their strategy. That's the biggest thing. So besides that, they're not consistent because they have all these blocks that we tackled in the beginning. The second part is they have a very complicated thing. They feel they need to do a lot. And again, this hides other blocks, like I need to work hard. I need to prove myself. I cannot rest, because if I rest, it means I haven't done enough. And then I feel guilt and I feel ashamed. And that's why. So these are all other types of money blocks that we uncover. So with my clients, we do like a questionnaire and thing. We pick one goal per month, each month in our marketing. So there's just one thing. You're not going to do everything. We're just going to focus on one thing. So let's say this month we're focusing on our ideal client, if that's the biggest problem we have, or just on social media, or on scaling. Maybe there's something that we need to tweak in your funnel, in your messaging. There's something. Every month we focus on one thing. Every trimester we have one big goal. So the first trimester is to triple your revenue. That's our big goal. And we work on, from, as I said, finding the money blocks and releasing them. You release them for yourself. We work on the marketing to be simple. You can do it even if you're sick. So that's the thing. I don't care. Like, it's so simple. It takes so little amount of time that you could do it even if you're sick almost. Like, that's how simple it needs to be. And then we do live marketing releasing. So let's say you released your money blocks, but as you're showing up with your content, you get triggered. I don't know, maybe somebody's writing better content than you, or maybe your content gets crickets, like no likes or no shares or whatever. And it's like, oh, what's the point to, constantly post and nothing happens? Like, we're going to release that. We're going to go deeper to see, okay, why does this show up for you? What's the block behind it? So these are the things we need to get to six figures. And every trimester, we tweak a little bit. Every trimester, we look at, now you're at 6K, right? Now you want to get to 10K. Like, that's how would be our next milestone. And then what do we need to tweak in your money blocks? What's the thing? What shows up for you as a 10K business owner per month? And then, usually we finish the year. If they work with me for a year, at around 120K. That would be their cash. In sales, it might be more, but in cash wise, it would be like 100, 120. And then we work on, okay, let's do multiple next year. Now, the difference between where we started and doing multiple 6 figures to 7 figure is that now we work on deeper levels. So now we work on trusting others more. So at this level, we're going to hire more support because we will need more support. Usually at this level, people want to have more family time or start a family or something around that, depending on their age, where we're starting and where we meet. But usually it's like, oh, I'm making good money. It's recurrent money. It's predictable money. I know how I've gotten here. I've seen this as a big issue with other coaches is that you can quantum leap. Like you can help somebody to make a lot of money fast, but not in a sustainable way. So I would see clients go from 0 to 200K like in 3 months, but they had no idea how they did it and they cannot replicate it because it wasn't done sustainably with their energy. It wasn't done with a process that they can test and be like, oh, so this worked because of this. I can do more of this. I can get triple the leads, triple the whatever, because I understand what happened. No, it's sold like energy, like quantum leaping, energy work, blah, blah, blah. And
the woo-woo side.
Exactly. And there's like, yes, I do believe in that. I teach that part too. But can we have a process that you can replicate after you're not working with me? No. And I've seen this over and over again. Like the internet is filled with people who made a lot of money and then they couldn't anymore because they really don't know what they did to make that money. It just showed up. And that's not how I work. So now at this level, we go to see how can you work less, much less, even less than you worked last year. What are the blocks that show up now? And we go deeper into these blocks because it's not just about the nervous system level or the energy level. It's about, let's talk about your DNA level to see your ancestors and their things that they faced. Let's go on the soul level. What did you come here to experience? Because we choose our soul experience. I always tell my clients, imagine choosing life like you go to an amusement park. And you go to an amusement park and you're like, which thing would I want to try? Would I want to try the biggest roller coaster or would I want to try the water slide or would I want to try this? And you don't know how it's going to be like. Like you have no idea if you're going to like it or not, but you're just choosing something for the idea of, I think I will love that. And I think I want to experience it. And as you choose the roller coaster, that being this new life that you're living, at some point you'll be like, I made a mistake. I don't like this roller coaster. Why did I choose this? That's not for me. And you get to be like, I want to shift something. And you get to change that. Nobody is doomed to stay on a roller coaster just because you chose it before you came here. So with my methodology,
at least in real life.
Exactly. So with my methodologies, we can be like, okay, I'm living this life experience that I understand I chose. I understand I've co-created it. Like there's something here for me. There's a blessing in the situation. I'm aware of it. But now I wanted to create something different. And then we look at behaviors. We look at where is it coming from? Are there any vows, commitments, promises on a soul level that we can just end here? We look at, even now lately, the last few months, I tested a new thing that came to my mind because I'm very focused on health since my husband was very sick. And I've been very sick too because of the stress and the anxiety and the depression that hit me. Now I work on the same thing on the cell level and organs level, because every single thing, it's also mirroring in our body. It's not just in our head. It's not just in energy form. It's also sometimes it's stuck in certain organs. Sometimes it's stuck in certain cell. Like if it's stuck on the cell level that affects all our cells, imagine how powerful that is. If you have a money block on a cell level, I mean, you can do all the mindset in the world. Like you can write every day, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy. It's not going to make that big of a difference. So with the 6-figure plus owners, we go deeper. And that's when they see an even faster manifestation. They will start to notice things like month after month, it's just going to be like, I'm this new person and I don't get it. Like, how could I think that way last year? And it's because we completely shift their identity. Like we talked in the beginning, they shift their identity So I hope I make it kind of clear what I see to be the differences.
Mm-hmm. I can totally relate to that, basically because I made a similar experience myself. And it's so interesting that you say it's basically kind of the same work, just the level is different. So the
Mm-hmm,
level
mm-hmm,
of money is different, the level of
mm-hmm.
deepness is different. And we are living in a world of duality or polarity, however you want to call it. So where is black, there's white. Where is up, there's down. And what I experience personally, the more you want to be up, the deeper you have to go. So if you look at the singers, for example, like the super extraordinary, those who touch ourselves, they went deep inside themselves. So they faced their shadows, they faced their blocks, their heritages, their history, their family relationships, like everything, right? And they just turn it into beautiful art of a song, for example. And that's touching us. That's the energy in this song transferred to the client, us, the listener, whoever. So I really, really love how you unpack that it's basically the same,
Mm-hmm.
just the level of consciousness, the level of awareness,
Exactly.
the topics, and probably the historical timeline going back even further is coming to play.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. It's always changing. So I noticed something else. I think people, and I had this belief too, that once you hit a certain number of money or success or visibility, then things won't affect you as much, or things won't be hard anymore, or uh, I don't know, things will just be much, much easier. And that's not quite true, because things are always hard. So if you're trying to escape hard that doesn't exist, that doesn't mean that it's hard, like it's painful. Doesn't have to be painful, but it's always going to be hard and uncomfortable. Pain becomes optional at one point when you have enough support with your business, with a coach like me to support you emotionally and in your energy. uh, Pain goes away. Hard is still there, but pain goes away. So I want
Mm-hmm.
everybody to know that more money won't save you, more success won't save you. You're still going to have issues in your life. There's still going to be very big trial moments, either with your personal life, with your children, with your spouse, with your health, with, can be, I don't know, war and inflation. And there's so many issues that are out of your control. Even if you're the best person, you're kind and you're perfect and you so organized, and life still happens. Life is still going to be hard. There's still going to be moments when you'll be like, it's not fair, or I don't deserve this. There's still going to be those moments. And every moment like that is just meant for you to see, why is this triggering me? What's this teaching me? What's the blessing in the situation? And sometimes the blessing is that you have to change a lot. Like you're going to have to pivot in a way you didn't expect to. But years later, you're going to look back and be like, thank God I was forced to pivot, because now I'm doing something that I love doing that I didn't see back then. Because sometimes we get so in love with the idea of making money and making a lot of money that it's very hard for us to stop that. So when I gave up my fashion business, it was a very hard thing, because I was making money. It was a business that was producing money. So why would I close that? But I knew that if I do both, I cannot excel at coaching, because I don't have enough time and bandwidth to do both at that level. So in my case, I manifested I had a huge brand deal, and that big company shut down overnight, leaving thousands of people unemployed and contractors like me not getting paid. And because of that, I was like, now that's my out. Now I can just close the business. So again, a lot of the time something bad happens and it's painful and it's hurtful. But if you understand that that's your moment, you're pivoting for a reason, you're going to thank yourself later on for this manifestation, for this co-creation, you feel good. And in order for you to feel that hopeful and that safe in your body is when you have support, the right partner, the right friends, the right coaches next to you, the right people in your business, as your clients, as uh, team members, to support you through those times.
And the right tools you just mentioned, for you, it's very important that it's sustainable. So you're passing over not only your support, but also a kind of, structured process you can repeat by yourself. And that's something I really appreciate. Maybe that's a German side of me, or maybe that's also the rational part of me. Like this is where I really go into resonation quite a lot, that it's important, that it's holistic, that it's sustainable, and that somehow we are living in a world where our brain is doing such a good job and so much work. We are focusing and training that so heavily that there's also a kind of explanation to our brain for what's actually going on. Because, well, even the physical existence of ourselves is just an explanation to our brain, because we can feel it, we can see it, we can believe it, and the brain can understand how that works. So that's really unique, a very unique approach to me, not only breaking it down in the difference of the revenue side, but also having this aspect of here's something, take it, repeat it, and there's always this next level of deepness where you feel like, okay, I've got my tools, but now it's the time I want somebody, because I know it's so much easier. This is like where we can consciously decide it's a tough situation, it's hard, but we can make it easier. I can decide to not go through that alone, so it's easier.
And it's this is another block, like not letting things be easy. That's one of the biggest blocks women face. That's why we need to work on this foundation in the beginning. Because if you cannot accept that things can be easy for you and you deserve for things to be easy, then you will never let them be easy. You will never hire support. You will never, it's just not possible for you.
Yeah. And one step after the other, like one block is revealed after the other. And it cannot happen to go to the deeper levels if you're not starting with the first step.
Exactly. That's so well put. That's exactly, like, you need to gain awareness. And every single step along the way, it brings you deeper awareness of that's what I need to do now. That's because sometimes people say, oh, but I have the same block over and over. So I even want to unpack this. If you work on a fear, let's say the fear is I won't have enough money. Let's say this is the fear. And every month you feel like you need to work on it. Journal on it, write affirmations around it, whatever, visualize, whatever you do, whatever manifestation process you do. Every month is the same. That's because you haven't done the 3 layers. You need mindset, trauma, energetic level. So that's the base. If you don't do these 3, if you just do the mindset, just force yourself to believe that that's not true. Like, I'm not afraid of that because I'm not going to have enough money. Then it's not enough. You're going to have to work on this every single month and it's never going to be gone. Then if you work on these 3 and it still shows up, it means it's stuck on another level, DNA, past life, soul level, depending. Maybe all 3, maybe just 1. So this is just a kind of a trick. So if you work on the same fear, you're not working on all its levels. That's why it shows up, because it's never show. Once you release it, it will never be back. Never, ever, ever. It can be something similar, but not that fear. So this is a very empowering thing that I want people to know, that your fears can be released and never come back. I've seen it over and over again. But you need to have the certain tools to know how to do that, or have somebody to do it for you.
That's incredible. That's even the bonus, the cherry on top of the cake. Thank you so much for sharing. And I could stay on talking with you forever, because you're so beautifully unpacking all the structures. And I think for all those who really want to scale further than 6 figures, because this is where the fun starts. There's more money to learn. There's more money to grow. There's more money for working less, like more opportunities to do something good. Like that's why we are here, right? It's not about the money. It's for the impact and the opportunities and experiences we can create. And it feels like you have just shared a little blueprint for that already. Thank you so much.
And I just want to say one thing, if we have one more minute. The reason why for other people in higher positions, like a 6 figures already, it's easier for them to make more money is because it is easier. So don't gaslight yourself. People who are making a lot of money now, it's easier for them to make more and more money than you if you're not making that. Because as you work on releasing your fears and your blocks, you don't have them. If you're preparing for a launch and you're like, oh my God, what if I don't get the clients? My launch will be a failure. If we release that fear of getting clients, The next time you launch, you're never gonna think about that. You're just gonna know you're gonna have 10 clients. And then you're gonna work on a different few that you have. And then in 10 launches, by releasing 10 big blocks, imagine how fast and easy it would be for you to make money. So this is why for some people really is easier. And it's not fair, I know, but we all start from somewhere and we all have the same, let's say, equal opportunity to invest and learn how to release our own money blocks. And with this, I'm done.
Like as mentioned, we could stay on forever because it's really a very interesting topic. So thank you so much, Roswitha, for being here. And we're going to put your contact details in the show notes. And also you created a little gift and hypnosis that's helping on those topics. So
yeah, that's something we tested last year. So I tested this hypnosis in order to make it for this version 100 of time on 100 of people. And now it's truly like everybody who's going to do this hypnosis will manifest money, or like either clients that will bring you money, or winning money, or somehow winning trips. Somehow there's something to do with money, every single person. So it's that powerful. It's free for now. So it's not going to be free forever, but for now it's free. You got to grab it. And then we can talk later about what's next for you.
Oh my God. Like, I feel like I have to download it immediately now. Thank you so much. Because I think there is not like, we cannot have enough gifts as a love language. So thank you so much for gifting that and gifting your time and your expertise here. It's been like time was flying. Thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you.
Maybe catch up soon again in another episode when we are unblocking the 7 to 8 figures. Let's see.
Oh. Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. So for those outside there listening to this episode, thank you so much for diving into the woo-woo and unpacking it with a very rational and analytic mind to put it in a structure which is sustainable and repeatable. I'm so glad that we have guests like Roswitha, and feel free to leave a comment for us what you appreciated the most. What is your gold nugget you take away? And if you like the podcast, give it a good rating, because that's our gift, what we are doing here, and it's your gift to, well, we love to receive gifts. It's your gift to share that with us. Thank you so much for tuning in, and well, see you, listening to you. Catch up next time on Champagne Circus.